There's one word I could use to describe characters in Chaos Zero Nightmare, it would be the word choice. There's so many variables and flexibility in what characters can do and accomplish as far as drawing cards, putting resources into your deck, doing damage, that there's almost a limitless amount of choice when it comes to you as a player building a character in a team in Chaos Zero Nightmare, which makes a tier list very difficult to attempt to make. So I've thought long and hard about this process. And because of that, I decided that we're going to be focusing on which characters are the most busted, the highest potential in Chaos Zero Nightmare. So when we're looking for the most busted characters, we need to distinguish ourselves with what this tier list means. Top tier here is busted. You're going to level these characters. If you have them, you'll probably find a way to use them eventually because they're just going to be so good. Characters that are going to wind up in the busted tier are going to be those ones that allow you to facilitate the best things in a game like Chaos Zero Nightmare. They might be the best ways to get card draw, give you AP, start some sort of busted loop that allows you to have a character that pays off from playing multiple cards in a single turn. We're talking 30, 40, 50, 60, 70 cards in a single turn. These characters specialize in that. They can be the payoff for that or one of the few ways to start a cycle like that. Tier 0 basically is going to be characters that are kind of almost as good as the busted ones. Maybe they have, I don't know, a slightly lower ceiling. Maybe they have a higher floor, but a lower ceiling of busted potential. High obviously is going to be a little bit below the tier 0 characters. They might not be able to do crazy busted stuff, but they're going to be very good for you. Mid, not bad characters. You can use them and do and accomplish great things with them, but they're just going to be a little bit slightly worse in some of these aspects, card draw, manipulation, stuff like that, than the characters on the tiers higher than them. Not worth it is where we start getting into the characters that, well, just simply aren't really crazy, right? You're not going to find a hard time replacing these characters. They might be your favorites. I'm sorry. Don't downvote me. And then finally, the joke tier, which I'm not sure there's going to be very many characters in this part, but we might end up with a few of them. I'll just take it in order here. We'll start with Luke the Man. My man Luke is going to be a character that will denote just how middling some of the game mechanics are in Chaos Zero Nightmare. Luke has a hard time doing some broken stuff like some of the other characters. He's based around this handgun bullet mechanic. Even with epiphanies, it's a lot harder to make Luke shine in broken scenarios than some of the other characters are. He's just kind of your average run-of-the-mill, do some damage, make some random bullets, do some stuff with that. There's not a lot of opportunities to absolutely make Luke completely busted. He isn't great. He's not fantastic. He's not super terrible, but in comparison to some of the other characters, he just really isn't worth doing and playing with a lot of the times. He doesn't specialize in card draw mechanics or anything of that nature. He's just kind of like a damage dealer, and he's just sort of fine. We're gonna put him honestly, I was gonna put him in mid, but I'm honestly gonna put my man Luke down in not worth it. Now we have Calipe, which is, well, the basic character who is all about the heaven and retain mechanic. She's got basically all in on the vulture ejection heaven mechanic, which allows you to play cards for free if you play another card 2 or higher. She has a lot of ways to give AoE damage to the enemy team while also providing shields and support to your party. She doesn't do a lot as far as AP generation goes. She doesn't do a lot as far as card draw selection goes. She's got a little bit for herself a lot of the times with skills like Rally with multiple epiphanies, whether you want to use it for heaven, draw high cost cards, draw other cards, just draw general cards. She can help you in that regard in a lot of situations. So she does have a little bit of party support in that nature. She really wants to be based around this heaven mechanic though, and there's not a lot of crazy ways to make someone like Calipe absolutely busted broken in some situations, but she is an incredibly powerful character, and she is going to be probably on this tier list the highest of all of the shield characters. So if you have her and you want to use her, go for it. She's fantastic. She is going to be basically, I don't think I'd call her busted, but she is definitely tier 0. When we get to some of the busted characters and the things that you can do with them, you might understand why I would put someone like Calipe down in tier 0 instead of busted broken. Magna is going to be another shielder, unlike Calipe, who Calipe can just do a couple of other things, help you draw cards, works with the 2-cost Heaven mechanic. Someone like Magna is just here to shield and counter. If you look at her card selection in a lot of her Epiphany cards, a lot of the things is just gain crystallization stacks, gain counter stacks, gain shield, just kind of sit there, tank and spank. She is going to be by far the most general use shield character. If you're looking for someone who's just going to apply shields to your party every single turn, Magna is going to be that character for you. But as far as when it comes to being absolutely broken, taking bosses out extremely quickly, just doing broken card game things in general, Magna really isn't that character. She does provide shields, like I said, a lot more often than someone like Calipe does, because every shield that she does is basically just tacked onto any given card in her deck, so you're never really going to be wanting without that. But she's very AP inefficient in a lot of scenarios, unless you have a lot of AP reduction, you know, special god epiphanies. But outside of that, she is still a very good character. She's just not like in the busted category, so I'm going to put her in high. Rin is the single target DPS premier. She's one of the characters that takes a lot of effort and time into building, 3 or so save data collection decks with some of the other busted supports we'll get into, but she has some of the highest ceiling for damage in the game, even without crazy god tier epiphany. She does love doing damage with herself. She likes having a nice sizable deck with all of the best cards for her to do damage. Her multipliers are quite high, and she also is pretty self-sufficient in that regard. A lot of her cards are very low costed, so she works very well with other supports who can generate a few extra AP and help you cycle through your deck multiple times to get access to a lot of Rin's most busted cards. And because of that, her ceiling is just insane. If you have her, you might use her right now and you might feel like she's not all that great, but trust me, eventually, once you get some of the other decks where you can generate AP, draw cards, it's basically ad nauseum as much as you want, she is one of the best DPS characters in the game. I know a lot of people say Rin is locked into single target. Once you start doing some of this broken stuff that you can do, where you start playing 20, 30 cards a turn, even if you don't hit that amount, you can still take out multiple enemies in AoE situations just because you hit so hard with Rin and you're able to just play so many cards all in one turn that she just becomes an absolute monster of a character, and so she deserves the busted tier. Orlia, everyone's a favorite 5-star support mom out here. How busted is Orlia with all of her minion generation, fixed damage, buffing, healing, shielding? She seems like she kind of does a little bit of everything. Everyone loves this character. The problem with Orlia in a tier list like this is we are looking for characters who can consistently do a bunch of broken things and start broken loops and do insane damage all at the same time. And Orlia is the antithesis of a character like that. She likes the slow and steady gameplay style where she slowly builds up her minions over time and allows you to slowly buff up your team and provide support through her Swifty, Tuffy, and Softy card buffs here, which just honestly, at the end of the day, isn't a broken thing. And not only that, some of the other supports can do what she wants to do much more consistently, much more quickly. We don't have time in a lot of situations, especially in content where you need to be clearing things in 12 turns, to just kind of sit there and hope our minions grow and give us the damage buffs that we need. She does have some nice team compositions in a retained base team, but on a tier list like this, when we're looking for broken things, she's just really not worth it. She's not cycling cards. She's not giving you AP. She's not doing a lot of the broken stuff that all the other supports can do way easier than someone like Orlia can even attempt to do. So she goes down in the not worth it tier on this tier list. Mei Lin is another premier single target damage dealer, but just how busted is she? Well, she does a lot of amazing things. You can make some great decks with her. She's very similar to the likes of Rin. She really pops off with her Eagle skill, allowing her next 4 basic attacks to get multiple hits. And she's got a couple of builds that allow you to build her in a couple unique ways. She's got some builds that really revolve around spamming out basic attack strikes, whether you're using a combination of the upgrade that creates strikes or the base version that just draws basic cards out of your deck. You're able to duplicate this and then epiphany this into the upgrade one, so you can have like 4 to 6 strikes in your deck, but also still have a way to draw them out of the deck later on in the game, which is a very easy way to chain, you know, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 strikes around in a single combat turn. And she also has some other ways to do some unique damage buffs as well, with a celestial base rising dragon spire attack build that hits multiple times for every passion card used this turn. She's got some nice payoffs in that regard. Because she is so low to the ground and so cheap with what she does, playing a lot of 1 and 0 costs in a lot of situations, and the fact that she can easily buff up the damage that your team does with likes of the Spirit of the Armada buff and the Flames Dragon's Jewel. She is an absolutely insane character and is one of the other few busted characters that you can put on in your roster in Chaos Zero Nightmare. She's got a lot of flexible supports that work extremely well with her, and she is one of the DPS that benefits from these long AP generating card draw loops that some of the other supports can do. So she's going to go right up in the busted tier with Rin as well. Veronica is a lot of other players, well, top tier support DPS characters generating ballistas, doing free damage in that regard, but how good is she? So one of her main drawbacks though is that she's kind of limited in 2 regards when it comes to doing damage. Number 1 is ballistas being generated in your hand eat up hand space. So if you're trying to do broken degenerate loops, well, you're going to have fewer and fewer spots in your hand to draw more cards, generate more AP, leading to you to overdraw in some situations, which is a downside there. Another downside as well is that, well, all of these ballistas and extra attacks that are coming off of what she does in her kit, they don't pop off until the end of combat, meaning that there is a limit to just how busted your Veronica as a DPS can be, which is a big downside. Even something like the pendant right here that gives you the reload buff stacks, or her ultimate ability here, bombardment prep, that gives you maximum reload stacks that allow you to do bonus ballista damage at the end of the turn, has a cap on it, meaning that inherently she has a hard cap on how much damage she can do in a single turn, limited by reload stacks as well as hand size. On the bright side though, she does offer some incredibly powerful support aspects with stuff like repos, whether you want to draw her own cards or some of the other players' cards in your team to help them combo out. She does allow you to do that with a couple of her cards, meaning that she is a very powerful character and is one of the better characters that I think you can have access to in a support style archetype, because she does have that card draw. She does have a lot of free damage that doesn't cost a lot. I might want to put her at the end of high or tier 0 here, because she is hard cap limited on that loop, but just because there's other people who aren't hard capped and can do more things doesn't mean that she needs to be knocked down multiple tiers all the way down to like Joke or something. I think she is still like a tier 0 character, and a lot of it is because of the combination of the damage that she can do while also supporting the team in a lot of ways with stuff like repos. So with that being said, I'm gonna have to leave Veronica right in the tier 0. I think she's an amazing character. Renoa is another bullet fiasco character, but unlike someone like Luke, who doesn't really have any payoffs for the bullets and just kind of lets them, you know, do damage at the end of the turn, we have stuff like Instant Judgment that does bonus damage. We have some other things like Ballad of the Pitch Black, as well as her ultimate last ditch attack, that allow the bullets themselves to do 2 important things. Number 1, you can remove the bullets from your hand. So unlike someone like Veronica we just talked about, or even Luke, where they generate bullets but then eat hand space, she has ways to ditch them to free up hand space while also doing a bunch of bonus damage, which means that she's got a payoff in a way to help you complete loops with AP generation and card cycling by removing the bullets straight up out of the hand. And she can even do other bonus things like bring the bullets back with her ego skill, so you can then ditch them again by using things like Joker or Shuffle from Casius, allowing you to get multiple payoffs of big damage after you generate a ton of bullets and pick out the right cards from your deck through your card generation and card draw, allowing her to do a lot more than some of the other bullet-based characters in the game, because she can remove that downside from herself. What does that mean for Renoa on the tier list though? Does that put her in like absolutely busted tier? I think she's very close if she isn't up there. I think she's one of them. I think she's a little bit trickier to use in some situations because of the bullet generation, and she needs to have her cards given to her in certain order because you don't want to just get all of the bullet cards and none of the payoffs at the same time. She's got a little bit of wonkiness in that regard, but I think she is still one of the best characters. I think I'm going to put her in tier 0 for right now instead of absolutely busted, unlike some of the other characters we're going to talk about. Hugo is everyone's favorite tier 0 must level character in every other tier list, and Hugo is an absolute freaking monster. Does this mean that Hugo is going to go into the top 0 busted biscuits banana sandwich part of our tier list? Well, tier lists here were based off of how busted you can be. And Hugo has one thing that kind of holds him back, which is most of his damage comes up from this commence the hunt mechanic, and it does have a hard cap on it. Hugo can do some incredibly crazy things and is one of the characters that has the highest damage floor in the game and an incredibly high damage ceiling as well, meaning that he should definitely end up right up in the busted tier. The thing with Hugo though is that, well, there are some other characters who aren't limited like he is off of one of his own main mechanics, very similar to something like bullet generators or ballista generators. Hugo does do incredibly powerful things, but when you're able to use some other characters that can hit up to over 1,000, 2,000% damage multipliers as a payoff for using multiple cards in a single turn, something that Hugo wants to do, I'm going to have to put Hugo down 1 from busted right into tier 0. He does offer some other cool things, some slight card draw with something like quick fix, but a lot of the times Hugo, you just do some damage, you do a lot of damage, you play some cards, you do some more damage, and once you start getting into the busted biscuits territory of AP generation card draw, he's going to still be an absolutely phenomenal character. He's just going to be limited by the fixtures approach extra attack style of commence the hunt, meaning that he's going to wind up right here in tier 0 instead of busted. Unlike some of the other DPS characters who are focused around spamming a bunch of 1 and 0 cost cards, well, Haru is literally just based around spamming a 2 cost card in the form of Anchor Shot. And Anchor Shot is something that you just want to spam over and over and over, as a lot of the best versions of it just get stacking damage increases the more that you use it, meaning that even though her main card is a 2 cost card, a lot of the times in a lot of situations when you're looking at some of the most busted things that supports can do, which is extra AP, card reusing, card draw, she works very well with those characters. The other thing that's very nice about her too is that she doesn't have a lot of cards that you really feel like you need to keep in your deck. You can make a pretty small deck with her, focused around literally just spamming Anchor Shot, maybe getting it back with some anchor pointers, right? Have those in your deck, have them duped up so you can retrieve your Anchor Shot more often, stacking it up higher, and then just spam all your AP into spamming Anchor Shot multiple times, meaning that Haru, while not having as long as loops as some of the other characters in the game, having access to someone who only needs a few cards in their deck, allowing you to use the most broken support card generators and AP cyclers, means that I think she actually is up here with Rin and Mei Lin as a busted character, because she's just there to spam her single 2 cost card over and over and over. She's very easy to use, and she kind of accomplishes the same thing in some shorter loops than these 2 characters do. Kron, everyone's favorite epic 7-man, yes, it's the same exact Kron, look at his face, is here as the premier AoE damage dealer. Now, Kron loves to create these futilities that you need to exhaust for multiple payoffs from some of his other cards like Black Hole Brand of Annihilation, his own ego skill here to do more damage this way as well. Kron is a fantastic AoE DPS character, and he does suffer a little bit in the single target category. He also does suffer from some of his most broken potential being locked around his E3 Vivid Memory, which doesn't seem all that crazy at first glance, as all it really does is allow you to exhaust futilities in the hand and the graveyard to get bonus damage on his ego skill. But once you have access to that, he becomes an even more broken character, as there's tons of ways to generate futilities for him and then just simply put them in the discard pile using stuff like shuffle from Casius or other ways to just discard your hand, draw new cards, and then use his ego skill to buff up this damage from not only the futilities in your hand, but the ones that you discarded as well. Think of card generating cyclers like Naya, Casius, and the like. Allow him to pop off even more in these AoE situations. Until you get that though, how good is he? He's still going to be good because he still works well with characters who like to cycle cards. You just want to not discard the futilities right away. You just want to exhaust them from your hand in a couple of different ways using the likes of characters like Ray, etc. So where does that put him right now? Well, I think Kron without his E3 is still a high potential character. I think you have to work with him a little bit. You got to put in a little bit more effort until you're E3 with him. And he does focus himself into AoE situations. So if you were to rate him as like a character where you only are ever going to take him into AoE damage, right? I think he goes up one more tier. If you were to put him in situations where he's only fighting single target bosses, I think he goes down a tier. But for right now, in general, we'll put him between the two and we'll just rate him in high. I love Kron, but this is kind of just where he belongs on the most busted tier list. Now we have Naya, one of the most busted card support characters in the game. She gives you access to so much card selection, it's kind of crazy. Don't think too much about stuff like mute accent and playing cards for free here with Soul Rip and her whole decibel mechanic. We're here to dupe cards like Nia's Curiosity, to just draw cards off the draw pile, find the ones you need for the situation for 0 mana. It's an absolutely insane card, something like Adagio here. You can get an Epiphany for it that allows you to draw 2 cards, right? And then you can also do some other things like discard them to the graveyard like we just talked about with Kron, or you can do something like this Adagio right here where you discard a card and then tutor 2 cards basically, because the card you discarded, you go find 2 more of the owner of that card. Having a small deck with Naya in it and allowing yourself to just basically play a bunch of free draw 2s, free look at the top 3, draw a card, something like even G-Chord here. If you get the Epiphany for this to be -1 cost and you can look at the top 3, pick one and choose that to activate, you can basically have a deck of 6 cards with 3 of them all costing 0. A duped G-Chord that looks at the top 3, plays 1 for free, a duped Adagio that draws 2, discards 1, and a duped Nia's Curiosity. And her entire deck is just pay 0 mana, do things for free, card selection. She's an insane character in that regard, and because of that, she allows you to facilitate, like we were talking about, some broken loops and broken cycles. If you have a Nia on your account, just level her. You'll find a use for her one day. It might not seem like a lot right now. She might seem clunky to use with all this decibel stuff. You don't like it, take those cards out of the deck, focus on the 3 we just talked about, and she is a busted character. Selena is someone who, well, everyone talks about putting her in only mono passion team. She's a DPS character. If you look at her base card, she just looks like she does, well, some basic garbage, right? Damage AoE, passion weakness, damage here, piercing damage here, put some marks on people. But if you go and look at her epiphanies, she actually can be turned into a pretty nice support DPS character that also works very well in some of these loop cycles. Something like this version of drone bombing. If you have someone that can perform an attack weakness, then you can put a coordinated attack with her for free for damage in that way. You can also do something like with this tactical maneuver becoming one of her best cards, an extremely cheap card that can put marks on people, ravage it, do tenacity damage, even bigger shield with more tenacity damage. And all this tenacity damage on these 1-cost cards means that she can help you generate a couple points of AP to replace the AP that you're using on her cards, making her pretty AP efficient, allowing you to also generate shields and making her actually one of the better shield characters that you can have access to in some of these, highly focusing, high damage teams. Something like Target Spotted. If you have a couple of these in your deck, you can draw them with someone like Naya in your party or Ray. They'll draw a card for you as they're being drawn. You can choose to play it for shield if you want, or you can choose to then discard it to something else and continue on your way. All the while, you have the supportive options of doing free damage with Sniper's Domain and all of her mark stuff, and she's actually going to be pretty powerful in these situations. So if you're looking for someone who works well with characters who like to spam a bunch of single single target attacks like Mei Lin or Rin even. Maybe even someone like Hugo in some ways. Anyone who spams out a bunch of single target attacks that you can get target weakness on, she is a phenomenal character, and she also doubles up as a little bit of a support with the ability for her to generate some AP and also draw some cards in some regards. I actually think that she is one of the better characters in the game and is slept on quite a little bit. I might be putting her too high at tier 0. She might belong in high, but I think that she has a lot of spots in some of these nice cycling decks. Maybe they don't want to go infinite card draw, infinite AP generation, but maybe she provides just enough while also shielding and providing some damage for free that she ends up in the tier 0 category. The lovely Tressa, the queen of spamming cards. So we have stuff like Unsheathed Dagger to generate some shadow daggers and spamming cards that way. But one of the things that actually puts her on the map is something like Shadow Reload, which seems pretty innocuous when you first read it until you get to this version here that allows you to create shadow daggers every time that you are healed. There are a couple of supports you can pair her with, most notably being Mika, that allows you to generate AP, generate a bunch of shadow daggers because you dupe Shadow Reload. You have 2, 3, 4 of these in your deck, and every time you heal, you make 2, 3, or 4 shadow daggers, and each of those shadow daggers can trigger something like Commence the Hunt damage. They can trigger something like completing quests for Casius. They do damage themselves as well. And so when you're trying to play 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 100 cards in a single turn, Tressa actually at the end of the day is one of the few characters that allows you to do that with some very broken archetypes. And out of all of the characters in the game that allows you to play the most cards, I think she is literally the #1. So anyone who wants to play many cards in one turn probably is going to have Tressa on their team and is abusing that Shadow Reload card in a lot of team compositions with the likes of Mika, which means that she is absolutely busted if you're using her in those parties. If you're not, you're just trying to use her as like a generic damage dealer, she is kind of just whatever. But because this is the Are We Breaking It tier list, she belongs in the busted list. She is part of so many top tier combos that she just goes right there. Amir, listen, I want to be able to clickbait you just like the next guy. Everyone rates her poorly. She's secretly busted. She does so many. She isn't anywhere near that potential. Listen, this character just wants to sit in a party that does nothing but shield up over and over and over. So she gains these metallization stacks and does a little bit of bonus damage at the end of the turn. If you want to basically think about her in comparison to some of the other characters we talked about on the busted tier list and why they got held back, because, well, they only counter at the end of the turn, or their damage only goes off at the end of the turn. Think about those characters and then think about Amir, right? And Amir only does that, well, if you put up shields multiple times in a single turn. There's not a lot of shield cards that also draw a ton of cards and generate AP and do all this other stuff. So that's not all that great of a combination. And then on top of that, the damage bonus that you get is very small and it only happens at the end of the turn. It just really isn't that crazy. Her other gimmicks and mechanics as well, where it's like, I use my metallization stacks to get damage reduction, I remove my stacks, and all this other stuff doesn't even get better, even if you have her like Giga Awakening. So this character, honestly, I wish I could clickbait you and be like, this is the best character, you guys, everyone's wrong. She's a joke tier. All right, she's a joke tier character. I know you've probably seen some 40,000, 50,000 view videos where it's like, check me out, I'm doing no, would put her right there. That's literally where she belongs. Lucas, my man, is the bullet support character. He just generates things that help bullet characters do more damage. He just boom, more bullets. We've said bullets so many times that we're going to get demonetized. If there was a middle of the road man who doesn't really do a ton of broken stuff, honestly, it would be the name Lucas. I don't want to dwell too much on this guy. On his best days, Lucas is mid. On his worst days, he is going to be in the not worth it category, right with his best buddy Luke. And I think that's where I'm going to put him. He's just not worth it. If we're in a busted tier list video, he's not worth it, man. Then we have Maribell, who is going to be, well, in the same sort of category that we have the likes of the other shielders. She just is very similar to Magna. She likes to do defense-based damage, counterattack, put up some shields for your party. Unlike someone like Magna though, she doesn't nearly generate as many shields as consistently as Magna does, and she is focused doing defense oriented damage and not shielding up as consistently as possible, meaning that I'm gonna have to actually put her like one tier below Magna. There's a lot of other damage dealers. You should be having her in your party for shield generation, and I just think she's a worse shielder than Magna is. Next up, we have Mika, and well, Mika's basically going to go right to the top of the tier list almost because of one card and one card only, which is this Source of Water. This thing heals you for free and also generates AP, and you can use this in conjunction with Tressa and some other characters to just generate an enormous amount of mana, an enormous amount of shadow daggers, and Tressa teams do crazy things. You can get epiphanies for it that allow it to give you multiple AP at a base level epiphany. You can then duplicate this card and have 2, 3, 4 of them in a single deck, generating multiple things of AP for you. You just need to pair her with someone else that can draw a bunch of cards for you, while Mika does a bunch of healing and AP generation for your party. That's literally her job, is to heal and provide AP with a small deck size, and she becomes an absolutely insane character. She goes right to the top of Busted because of that. She is one of the only ways to generate an enormous amount of AP in a single turn with her Source of Water, and it leads to allowing multiple different teams to do busted things with way more AP than they should have access to inside a single turn in Chaos Zero Nightmare. Next up, we got everyone's favorite man, Owen. I heard there's a lot of controversy around this man right now, but I'm going to be short and sweet with Owen for you here. Owen does some cool things. He's got some cool text on his cards, like doing extra attacks, all of this other stuff. It looks neat. Vulnerable, we do more damage. But the thing with Owen is, there's no great loops with Owen. The damage multipliers on Owen aren't crazy. His support isn't insane. He just kind of doesn't really do anything, and I was gonna put him in not worth it tier, but honestly, I think Owen kind of deserves going maybe right down in joke tier, because this tier list is based around how busted you can be. Can you put Owen in your party and do things, AoE damage, all this other stuff, do some bonus attacks on cards? Absolutely. Is he working well with anyone else in the cast? Absolutely not. So he just goes right down in the joke tier. He's just hanging out with Amir, I guess. Beryl's someone who's catching a lot of love from some slower free-to-play players right now, but how good is Beryl when we're trying to break the game open? Now, there's a couple of Beryl cards that you really want to focus around if you're looking at Beryl. One of them is going to be Opening Shot because, well, it costs 1 and you can get some free damage on it as well with the Retain +1 hit. You can get some epiphanies on it to do some extra bonus damage for a single source of AP as well. You can also use the Opening Found whenever your own card is retained to do some free damage, but this is not broken. The only thing that's really broken with her, or people want to break with her, are 2 of these other cards. So you have Charge Shot and Retain decks that allow you to just forever charge it up, adding damage. And you've seen like big, 10k hits, 1 shot. But remember, you have to sit there for multiple turns, multiple times to get this Charge Shot maxed out. You compare her with someone like Orlia, or you can also use some of Beryl's own cards here, such as the Unlimited Firepower, to help you get some extra damage on your stuff as well. There is also a few other ways to help you retain some extra cards, and most importantly here, you can also have the option to not just draw 1 and retain effects all proc, which is probably your own Beryl card, or maybe something like a Calipe deck or Orlia as well, which works well with all of them. Or you can get some nice card draw with Beryl here too, where you can draw 3 immediately and then draw an additional 2, which is one of her best supportive cards. So how good is Beryl? Well, in retain teams, in celestial retain teams, when pairing her with someone like Calipe, she's actually pretty good because she can allow you to draw through your deck to allow you to do damage, get access to those very important 2-drops, so you can activate all of Calipe's stuff. And she's a very strong character in that regard. But outside of those teams, yes, the highlights are cool. You're doing a bunch of damage on turn 475 because you sat there with shielders and did damage the whole time of 0 until you activated her card, and it looks really cool. But outside of those teams, she's actually pretty mid. So if you're gonna base her on those teams, the Celestial Retain teams, how busted are the Celestial Retain teams. They're pretty all right. She does allow you to do some nice damage with the likes of Calipe, but outside of those specific supportive setups where you're using basically just Orlia, Beryl plus Calipe, she seems kind of underwhelming in a lot of regards. A lot of the times your decks are literally just gonna be made up of like a charge shot or two, a guilty pleasure possibly, and then maybe like unlimited firepower / heaven weapon specialist if you so desire, which is okay. It's not the craziest thing, and her ego skill is some generic basic garbage. So outside of those specific teams, she's really not worth it. I'm gonna put her down in Orlia tier with that because this is the busted tier list. We're not trying to sit around and do stuff. We're trying to do broken combos, not on turn 500. And then we have possibly one of the most slept on characters in the game, which is going to be Rei. Rei does do a lot of cool stuff when it comes to supporting proper teammates. You take a look at her gear in her kit and you'll be like, oh, she seems like she wants to do damage and she wants to buff and she wants to do some other stuff. Well, what you really want to do with Rei is remove a lot of these garbage cards and pick a deck based around something like Snack Time. She's got a lot of different decks for you to use. Snack Time is something we love to see because it's card generation, which is amazing. Yes, you have to exhaust some cards out of your hand, but you can also use this early on to remove cards you no longer need in your combo loops, remove cards that you weren't able to remove permanently in your save data, increasing the consistency of your combos as well with stuff like Snack Time. One of my favorite ones to use is going to be this Exhaust 2 one, so you can use it multiple times, drawing extra cards, healing you a little bit, removing some of those extra cards out of your deck you don't want there to be in there anyway, and just facilitating good card draw TCG gameplay mechanics. On top of that though, she also has very powerful buffs, like 4 turns or 4 stacks of morale is 80% damage for 1 energy, which is pretty decent. She also has multiple different ways to fit into multiple teams. If you're doing a void team, you can go in there with Resonating Darkness. If you're doing basic damage teams, right, you can get 80% for a single turn and combo out that way. You can do 60% forever as an upgrade. You can do 40% for cards that are 1 or lower, which helps her in these big combo turns in some teams where you're maybe using a gajillion Shadow Daggers or you're using a gajillion 0-cost strikes from Mei Lin to do a bunch of damage in that regard. On top of that, she also works very well with basic attack focused decks. If you want to use something like the Strike of Darkness to increase basic attack cards damage by a large margin for an incredibly powerful 150%. So there's a lot of cool stuff that you can do here with your Rei. And I think that because of that, I don't think she's quite as strong as the likes of like Nia and Mika, but I think that she does belong up in the tier 0 support category of some of these characters like Selena as well. And I'm going to have to put Rei right there because I think she is just that good. Last is my man Casius, who is, well, the combo king. So he has everything you would want in one character. We talked about the importance of card draw, AP generation, card selection, and also being a way for you to benefit from all of that. He does all of it. He's a payoff as well. So he's got Joker that allows you to get a card of your choice out of the draw pile or the discard pile if you have his E1, which is pretty easy to gain access to as he is a 4-star character, meaning that you can go get very important combo pieces, reuse them as well. You go fetch things like Mika's Source of Water to generate more AP, especially if it's generating 2 or 3 AP because it's got a God Epiphany on it. Joker's now making you mana, healing, generating Shadow Daggers and Shadow Dagger combo teams. He can also use something like Devil Dice with the Epiphany of Retrieve 3 to turn AP directly into card draw. If you're sitting there with 6, 7, 8, 9 AP from Mika just giving you a ton, well, it's useless unless you have cards, and you can just turn 3 of that AP into a draw 3 with a Devil Dice. He has access to card utilization with something like Shuffle as well. One of the most busted versions you can get actually is going to be this Shuffle that says move all cards from your hand and discard to the draw pile, then draw 5 early on. This allows you to go from a hand of 0 to 5, which is insane. But one of the extremely busted ones that you can get later on is this Shuffle, which allows you to select up to 5 cards from the discard and put them on top of the deck. You can use this in combination with other card draw effects like we just talked about with his Devil Dice to maybe put like 3 Source of Waters on top of the deck, and then spend 3 AP with the Devil Dice to draw 3 more cards, all which are Source of Water, and your sources of water all have +2 AP on them. So you turned a shuffle in 3 AP from Devil Dice into draw 3, and those cards generate you 6 more AP. So he does a lot of busted stuff as far as card selection goes, card draw goes, but on top of that, he also has one of the best payoffs for doing combos in the game. And this is the reason why we put Hugo in tier 0 instead of absolutely busted. And it's because of this quest, 000 here, which seems pretty innocuous at first glance, 40% multiplier, and then damage equal to the number of attack cards used this turn. Hugo wants a lot of attack cards played, so does Casius. Well, Casius can help you do these combos with what we just talked about, but then he can also build up these quest rewards where you're getting thousands of percent mod, 1,000, 1,700, like whatever it is, 800% multiplier, multiple of them in one turn, and just dropping like 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 000 quest rewards, all for 1,000% plus multiplier down on enemies' heads, which is just going to be, I'm sorry, better than getting some commence the hunt stacks off at the end of the day. If we're looking at what's busted, his Casius's payoff's more busted. Casius helps you tutor, he helps card draw, he helps do the most broken things in the game. And if I was to say like what's the most busted character in Chaos Zero Nightmare, it would hands down have to be someone like Casius. He just does too many good things from a card game standpoint, and they work extremely well in the gist of Chaos Zero Nightmare. With that being said, this is going to be the list, guys, and I honestly stand behind it. If you're looking for the busted character tier list, the highest potential, highest ceiling in the game, this is going to be it. Don't get it twisted though. This isn't a general use tier list. This is who is the most broken. We'll be taking a look at Pridwin's tier list for general use characters and commenting on that in the next coming days. If you want to see that in my smiling face on that video, let me know down below. Catch you guys in the next one. God bless, and I'll see you then.